I want to talk about Cam Ward and the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns had the second overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, so it's a good chance that Cam Ward may be taken off the board with the Tennessee Titans. But the Tennessee Titans, they're still fielding offers, and it seems like they like Shedeur Sanders a little more than Cam Ward. We'll see what happens in the next couple of months. But I do believe that Cam Ward would be successful with the Tennessee Titans, and he will also be successful with the Cleveland Browns. Just my opinion. When you look at Cam Ward, this is one of the best stories in the NFL draft. We hear about Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Shedeur Sanders. Cam Ward has basically taken one of the hardest routes to get here. He was a zero-star recruit coming out of high school, and it wasn't because he was a terrible quarterback. He played in a wing T offense. And for the ones that don't know, wing T is basically an old school offense from the 60s and the 70s. The quarterback, he's not going to go out there and throw that much. It's not going to happen. He may throw the ball 10 to 15 times a game. Certain coaches, they'll let you go out there and throw the ball later in the game. But usually when you're running the ball, you're eating up the clock, you're not seeing that much production on the field when you are a quarterback because it's a run-heavy offense. So he did not get a chance to go out there and get offers from LSU, USC, Alabama, The Ohio State University, hell, even Duke. Miami was not even on his radar. He had zero offers until one school, an unconventional school, came out of nowhere and took a chance on him. Incarnate Word. The Cardinals. They gave him his offer. Similar to the Josh Allen situation, where a guy's being slept on, he has to go out there and basically fill out his own offers. The school came to Cam Ward. It was a no-brainer. He goes out there to the FCS. The FCS is not known for going out there and developing top quarterbacks in today's game. But you look at Cam Ward, remember, this is a kid that did not throw that much at the high school level because of the offense that he was in. In his first year with UIW, 24 passing touchdowns to 4 interceptions, 2,260 passing yards. And he's still a kid at this point in time in his life. You saw a lot of big playability in his first year with UIW if you are a fan of that school. You saw him be able to run around and make plays that other quarterbacks not able to make in the FCS. But he still had a problem pushing the football down the field with his accuracy. So he comes back one more year to UIW. And this would be one of the best seasons that he has had in his playing career, even dating back to high school. 4,648 passing yards, 47 passing touchdowns to 10 interceptions. And I hated the notion that the media ran with when it came to Cam Ward at this time. Because you look at the 47 passing touchdowns. They came out and they said, you know what? It's not against elite level competition. He's not facing teams like Alabama. He's not going against teams like Georgia. So even though he had a good season, he is still not a top rated quarterback at the college level. But a good season for Cam Ward. That's a great season, in my opinion, for a guy that did not throw much at the high school level. So he went over the offseason, worked on his accuracy. The deep ball got better. The anticipation got better. And the accuracy, 10 to 15 yards, was better. He was pretty much the perfect quarterback at UIW in that second season. But he made the decision to go out there and transfer to Washington State. And he made the right decision here because he wanted to get bigger spotlight on him. He wanted to go out there and go against tougher competition. It would come with some struggles. 3,231 passing yards, 23 passing touchdowns to 9 interceptions. He got sacked 17 times in his first year when he was playing. In his second year, he got sacked 33 times. This season, the 23 passing touchdowns to 9 interceptions, that was a major dip. He got sacked 46 times. We saw him develop some bad habits, holding on to the football for too long, rushing himself into sacks. The anticipation was terrible. The accuracy was here and there. It wasn't consistent. So his first year with Washington State, it wasn't horrible, but we saw him take a massive step back compared to the year before. But he comes back over for one more season with Washington State, and he did look better. 25 passing touchdowns to 7 interceptions. And he did a better job of getting the football out just a little bit quicker. He still got sacked 38 times. That's a lot for a quarterback in the college level. And they try to run more quick game. At this point in time, he could have put his name in the NFL draft conversation. He did not declare for the draft. And a lot of people around Washington State, they expect for him to come back. But when you listen to those numbers, that does not scream first round pick. That doesn't scream second or third round pick. Because if he was able to come out last year, He would have been in the same draft class with Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, J.J. McCarthy. That quarterback class last year was stacked. You look at Cam Ward, he would have easily slid to the 4th or the 5th round. So Cam Ward said, you know what? I'm going to go out there. I'm going to make one more decision. I'm not going to go back to Washington State. And he was grateful for his time. He goes to the University of Miami. His first and only season with the University of Miami, 39 passing touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 4,313 passing yards, and he only got sacked 22 times. And you saw him mold his game. This was the best season in his collegiate career. He was a Heisman finalist, a kid that went from being a 0-star recruit coming out of high school. The high school coaches basically hid him on the field because they ran the football so much. He went over to Miami, transformed that program, made them look like a contender all year long. And he did have some bad moments this year. He's not a perfect prospect. He did have some fumbles. He did have some interceptions that make you scratch your head. But the next thing you know, he comes over, he makes some great plays, similar to a Josh Allen, inside and outside the pocket. When you compare him to Shedeur Sanders, in my opinion, he's more accurate. But you look at Cam Ward, he's more gifted with his athleticism, with the ability to go out there and extend the play, throw off the back foot, push the football down the field. Now, this isn't just my opinion. This is just facts right here. Cam Ward has a bigger and a stronger arm than Shedeur Sanders. The anticipation still does bother me, but the poise is there for both quarterbacks. I love me some Shedeur Sanders on the field, but I look at Cam Ward, the athletic ability, the upside is there. I think if you hit his ceiling, in my opinion, is similar to a Josh Allen. Not outside the pocket in terms of moving in open field like a Josh Allen, like a Lamar Jackson, like a Jalen Hurts. He's not a scrambler. But in terms of extending the play and pushing the ball down the field, he has that type of ability. But his floor is scary as hell. He can be a bad Geno Smith at times because you look at the times that you saw in other seasons in his career with UIW, with Washington State. That quarterback still may be there, but at the same time, we've seen quarterbacks like Jaden Daniels, Arizona State University. He didn't look the greatest. Goes over to LSU, one of the best quarterbacks to have. Now you look at Jaden Daniels. You look at Jalen Hurts when he was with Alabama. Passing the football wasn't his strong suit, and it's still not, but he was a better passer with the University of Oklahoma, with Lincoln Riley. So we've seen this with quarterbacks before, so I'm not going to hold all his bad moments that he had when he was a younger player against him. I'm looking at what he did at Miami with a better offensive line, with better wide receivers. He was throwing guys open consistently, something that he did not do when he was younger. So I look at Cam Ward. I think that he would be the perfect quarterback with the Cleveland Browns because he has battled through adversity over and over again. Not too many young kids, because I want to really harp in on this. These guys are still teenagers. When they start off college, some guys are 17, 18 years old. For you to go out there and battle through that adversity, it would have been easy for him to just go out there and say, you know what, this is too hard. I quit. I'm good with just being at the school that I'm at. We'll see what happens. He fought through. And I look at the Cleveland Browns. Lord knows they need a quarterback. Deshaun Watson's not going to be your guy. Deshaun Watson right now is terrible. A lot of things happened off the field that he caused. The confidence is not there. He tore his Achilles not once, but twice. Just a year before, he hurt his shoulder. He hasn't played a full season with the Cleveland Browns due to injuries, due to suspensions, and they're not going to go out there and cut him because that would be one of the biggest cap hits in NFL history. But you have the second overall pick. You can control your destiny here. And Kevin Stefanski has never had the chance to draft a quarterback in the first round and develop him. I look at Kevin Stefanski. Why did he get this job? Because the work that he did with the Minnesota Vikings when he was their former offensive coordinator. He's a great offensive mind. He's made the playoffs not once but twice with the Cleveland Browns. And that's a miracle with this organization, which is terribly ran by the Haslam family. You had Baker Mayfield, who had hot and cold seasons. You look at Baker Mayfield right now, he's a superstar with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but it was time to move on because all the bad coaching that you put him through with Hugh Jackson, with Freddie Kitchens. Over and over again, Baker Mayfield is switching offensive coordinators. He's switching head coaches. He's still dealing with that right now with the Buccaneers. Then you bring over Deshaun Watson. It just hasn't worked out. I look at Cam Ward. This is a kid that can come in, big arm, that can play in the AFC North, can play in the snow, can play in the rain. He did it at Miami, can carry an offense on his back. And the Cleveland Browns, they have pieces. You have David Njoku, who is a very good receiving tight end. Jerry Jeudy had over 1,000 receiving yards this season. You have Elijah Moore. You look at the offensive line. You need to put some more work into the offensive line because you're getting older at certain positions. And let's just be honest here, Jedrick Wills Jr. has not panned out at the tackle position. But the Cleveland Browns, they were still a tough team to defeat for most of the season, even with bad quarterback play. I saw Kevin Stefanski get the Cleveland Browns without their star running back, Nick Chubb. They're starting 2 tackles. They're starting safety. He got them to the playoffs with Joe Flacco when he called him off his couch. So imagine what he can do with a quarterback like Cam Ward. I know that they drafted DTR, but he was a later round pick, and DTR is not an NFL quarterback. I'm sorry to tell you. He's terrible. I look at Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston had some solid moments this year. At least you could score over 20 points with him. In 8 games this season with Deshaun Watson, you couldn't even score over 20 points. In the limited action that he saw this season, he was terrible. So I do believe that Cam Ward could come over with the athletic ability in this division, and he can be a superstar with the Cleveland Browns. They had the guy with Baker Mayfield. They could never get the coaching down. When they did bring in Kevin Stefanski, he was too far gone. That last year with Baker Mayfield, I felt bad for him. Had a hurt shoulder, had a hurt hip. It was time to move into a different direction. And it's only so much that you can do. When you have the coach and you have the players, it comes from up top. I wish the Haslam family would sell this team because the Cleveland Browns would be better off if they did not have Deshaun Watson on this roster. And who pushed for that move? The Haslam family did. He pushed for this move, not Andrew Berry. Andrew Berry was a huge fan of Deshaun Watson, but it's a lot of reports that he was very hesitant on going out there and trading those first-round picks and giving him that deal. Now, essentially, he did do that, but once again, the ownership came in and they said, you know what, make it happen. Deshaun Watson did not even want to be a Cleveland Brown to begin with. The only reason he came over to the Cleveland Browns is because of the money. This is a man that held out of his last season with the Houston Texans because he was done with that organization. He had talked to the Carolina Panthers, with the Atlanta Falcons, but he wanted money. And the Cleveland Browns were so desperate, they offered him a fully guaranteed contract. And they have restructured that deal 3 years in a row right now. And we're talking about a man that can't stay healthy. He's a cancer to the locker room. And it bleeds over to this conversation with the Cleveland Browns. Myles Garrett. I came on here a couple weeks ago. I'm going to say it again. I would not trade Myles Garrett. I would call his bluff. There was some reports that came out, and Myles Garrett has come out on podcasts, and he said this: it's not about the money. I don't want to be paid any more than I'm being paid right now. I would take a pay cut. I want to go out there and I want to play with a contender. I want to win a Super Bowl. I feel for Cleveland Browns fans. I don't feel for the organization because they brought this on themselves when they brought in the Deshaun Watson situation. Because they went out there and they traded for him, and they knew that he had all those allegations. The thing is this with Myles Garrett. If he wants to go that bad, see what happens later in the year. You can trade him before the NFL draft and try to get some first round picks out of a team like the Philadelphia Eagles, maybe the Washington Commanders or the Lions. You're not going to get a top 10 draft pick. If he wants to go to a contender, you're not going to get a top 10 or a top 15 draft pick. And you're not going to trade him in division. It's not going to happen. That would be stupid. That would be asinine. If you were to go out there and trade Myles Garrett, trade him to the Detroit Lions, trade him to the Philadelphia Eagles, get him out of this conference, get him out the AFC because you don't want to face him. If you do trade Myles Garrett, you're going into a complete rebuild. Because call me crazy, right now the Cleveland Browns, they have talent. They're not a terrible team. The quarterback has just killed them over the last few years. Like I mentioned before, you made the playoffs with Joe Flacco. Your defense, you have talent there with Greg Newsome. You have Denzel Ward at the cornerback position. You have Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, even though he missed majority of the back half of the season because of a neck injury that he suffered against the Baltimore Ravens, he went heads up with Derrick Henry, which is not the smartest thing to do, but I will give him credit. At least he stopped Derrick Henry at that time, but that was a tough watch. You have Dalvin Tomlinson. I think that they may move off of Dalvin Tomlinson, honestly. But you look at Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Denzel Ward, Grant Delpit, Martin Emerson Jr., Greg Newsome. There's talent there, and you have Jim Schwartz. Your defense was completely terrible a few years back with Joe Woods. Kevin Stefanski comes in and said that it's not working out. Let's bring in Jim Schwartz. And your defense, you had the top defense just a year before when you made the playoffs with Joe Flacco and Myles Garrett. He was happy. And I hate doing this, but this is true. Usually, when a team goes out there and they move on from their top pass rusher, their defense takes a major step back. You already traded Zadarius Smith to the Detroit Lions. He's already off this roster. Who's going to be your top pass rusher when Myles Garrett is gone? So if you do move on from Myles Garrett, move on from him for two first-round picks to try to bring in another fourth or a fifth-round pick. It has to be 2 first-round picks. I know that he's 29 years old, but when you look at Myles Garrett, he will easily go out there and get a team 15 sacks in a year. Because when you go to a contending team, most contending teams, they have a very good pass rush already. So he's going to help the pieces around him. So if you move on from Myles Garrett, make sure that you get a lot of draft conversation. I'm not going to be unrealistic here and say try to bring in yet another star pass rusher that's younger. That makes zero sense. But I do believe that Myles Garrett is worth a first-round pick or 2. In my opinion, he's worth 2 first-round picks, even if he is 30 years old. Right now, he's 29 because of how dominant he is every single year. With the exception of his rookie season, he's had double-digit sacks every single year. And he's not that type of pass rusher that you look at and say that he's just getting cleanup sacks. No, he is getting through double teams. He's getting through triple teams, including the running back in certain times. That is how great that he is. He's one of the best defensive players that you can have. Some would say that he's the best pass rusher in the NFL today. I would say him, TJ Watt, and Micah Parsons, they all deserve to be put in the same conversation. But I look at the Browns. You go out there, you bring in your quarterback. Unfortunately, they will have to move on from Myles Garrett because he is serious. And I hate to see that happen to the Cleveland Browns fans. You're going to take a step back, but you keep Kevin Stefanski. You let him have his job. You build with Cam Ward. And after this season that's upcoming, move off the Deshaun Watson contract and try to rebuild from that standpoint. But when I look at that Houston Texans trade with the Cleveland Browns many years back, the Texans easily won that trade. And it also puts more salt into the wound because that's the team that you lost to in the playoffs last year. But let me know in the comment section below, how do you feel about Cam Ward and would he be the perfect quarterback for the Cleveland Browns? And I'll say this right here also with the Cleveland Browns. This is the one team that I know for a fact should not be trading down in this draft class. I don't care how weak this quarterback class may be in your opinion. You have the chance to bring in a Shedeur Sanders or a Cam Ward. Bring in one of those quarterbacks. And I know we get into the whole topic of discussion with Shedeur Sanders, with Deion Sanders let his son go to the Cleveland Browns. Call in his bluff. You have to bring in a quarterback here. And you can't go out there and you can't bring in Sam Darnold. I see some reporters saying they can bring in Sam Darnold. No, they can't. They're in cap hell right now with Deshaun Watson. They can't bring in Kirk Cousins either unless the Atlanta Falcons are willing to pay 75% of his salary. And that doesn't make any sense for the Atlanta Falcons. That's the only way that that's going to be able to work out. And even at that point, you may want Kirk Cousins to take a pay cut. And the only reason I'm saying bring in a guy like Kirk Cousins, try to consider that, and that's just a huge hypothetical, is because of the work that Kevin Stefanski did with him when he was with the Minnesota Vikings. But even then, Kirk Cousins, at this stage of his career, torn Achilles a year ago, was terrible this previous season. He got replaced by Michael Penix Jr. Go out there, draft your quarterback. Go with Cam Ward if he's there on the board. If Cam Ward is there, and let's just say the Tennessee Titans, they take Shedeur Sanders, they take Abdul Carter. Run to the podium, take Cam Ward. I don't want to live in this world either to where they can go out there and select a guy like Travis Hunter and then they're rolling the dice at the quarterback position. Because you don't know what your picks are going to look like in the future. There's a chance that the Cleveland Browns exceed expectations if they go out there and they select the talent like Travis Hunter. Now you're out of the race for next year to bring in a quarterback, and you'll still be dealing with financial trouble with Deshaun Watson. Take the quarterback with the 2nd overall pick. Don't overthink this. Move on from Myles Garrett, and then you should be in a better situation within the next 4 to 5 years. But this is going to take some time. The Cleveland Browns will not be contenders with Cam Ward when they select him with the 2nd overall pick. This is not going to be a situation to where we look at with Jaden Daniels. He comes over. He takes the Washington Commanders to the NFC Championship game. Where you look at CJ, takes the Houston Texans to the playoffs in back-to-back years because of how bad the Deshaun Watson trade was. You're lacking assets, and I'm really going to be concerned about the Cleveland Browns defense without Myles Garrett. Jim Schwartz is an incredible defensive mind, but they're not going to have that much pass rush up front. But let me know in the comment section below, what should the Cleveland Browns do with the second overall pick? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless. Peace.